Greetings, Marsh here, and welcome to episode 321 of my modded Factorio playthrough. In this episode, we are going to finish up with our sodium carbonate and aluminum pellet setups. Enjoy. I think I got most of these replaced. That there's way less of them than there used to be. Some of them are in places you would expect. Like some of them are at the dumps. Others are like getting rid of the glycerol, getting rid of oxygen. And some of them are there just to start processes up that I don't think really run anymore. But to give you an idea, there's 27 flare stacks in the junk warehouse and 2 more in my inventory. So I think I removed 29 flare stacks to give you an idea of all the resources we're trying to capture. And we'll use drones here to capture what we can. Of course, it's not running. And one thing that did occur to me is that we have 183,000 oil residuals and it's nighttime. It's almost about to be day. But if you look at our fuel setup, 2 drones are delivering oil residuals, which are getting turned into residual gas. And you can see that we're not making plastic or anything, so that residual gas is all going towards making fuel blocks. Which means that our factory is oil residual negative. So in other words, we're creating the necessary power to run our factory. It's not like we're wasting anything. We're just making what we need. It stands to reason that there will be a day when these oil residuals run out that we will not be able to produce power anymore. Because this is our main option, and there really aren't any backups. It in itself kind of is the backup. We do have a whole bunch of orbs, which we could burn, and we just haven't hooked it up yet. But that tells me that we're living on borrowed time with our power setup. That sooner or later, it's not going to work anymore when we run out of those oil residuals, which means we are going to need nuclear power. Everyone rejoice. It won't be today, though. That's something for another day. Mainly, I don't want to get distracted because we are trying to work on improving all of our processing types here. So I kind of want to at least get this part done. But it's not critical that we deal with nuclear right now. We've got oxygen taken care of. We'll probably have to see, based on removing all of those flare stacks, that we may not be able to move nitrogen fast enough to get up here. It might clog, like, let's say, down at the oxygen generator. So we might want to have a backup down there, even though I just kind of pulled them out. But we are going to be delivering some oxygen and nitrogen from the science bus, which was being wasted, and also from puffers. And this is the closest place for the drones to get to. Let's see. Where's the closest nitrogen? Right here. Well, I guess we can just make the request. We want nitrogen, and we want all of it. Not sure how many drones we'll need, but let's go with 10. And all the way down here is the farthest point that nitrogen's coming from. And if we select every single machine, we're going to have a surplus of basically 2 pipes worth of nitrogen right off the bat. So that won't work long term. So I would say if this is overfilled, we probably do want to just dump the resources with 2 overflow valves in there. Just in case, because when this goes, it's going to go. So that was a little bit of a detour, as it tends to be, but we are making our progress towards getting aluminum all figured out. But now that we have our other ways of recapturing nitrogen, if it's not available, we'll still need to make it. We'll have to come to this setup here. Also, we're going to need to handle that water. So this setup isn't quite done yet, but reasonably close. It's actually something very similar to this. We just need 2 of them. So let's make life easy on ourselves. And just put 2 of them in here somewhere. How about like up here? The oxygen is something we want to try to save. So we can send it along this pipe here to put it back into the pipe bus, because this is just a byproduct, so we'd want to try to save it if we could. And it is kind of weird that we have essentially 2 byproducts, where we have oxygen as a byproduct and nitrogen as a byproduct. And we're trying to use both of them at the same time. And it can get kind of weird when you have 2 different things and you're kind of treating both of them as byproducts when you also need to actually create them. And let's just make this a little easier by cutting that off for now. Just trying to figure out where all these are going to go. So then we can determine where the pipe should be. So there's the oxygen, and now the nitrogen just needs to run in case this gets super low. So let's put the pump in. And let's say if it's under 15,000. And we're going to need speed modules in here. We might as well just put them in manually. And get it hooked up. Now we're getting our nitrogen again. Which we can hook up here if we do some weird stuff. Like that. Alright. We had the water, which we wanted to try to save. And it makes sense to put it on drones here, so let's just move it down here a little bit. Hydrogen is already down there, so how come that thing only has one module in it? It seems like it could use more than one. Is that because it doesn't quite help? Yeah, it doesn't quite help. Okay. Pollution cleaning then. So we'll put 2 in here and let's space them apart by 3. They will dump their oxygen into the system. And the hydrogen gets in there too. That is a neat little way of saving anything weird that's not very valuable, like water. Just dumping it into the system like that. And one more pipe right here. Is this going to fit all the way? Without getting blocked by something? Hey, it does. Can't forget about the slag. So we'll do supply depot with its circuit writer because we don't want drones coming here unnecessarily. And the enabled condition is slag has to be more than 10,000. And that will work. But we need to deliver that slag somewhere, because this is the first time we've put slag on drones. Well, the closest we can get them is like right here. Or we can let the drones go further and make things cleaner, because then they can just get inserted on this belt here and go where they need to go. Now, it's kind of already busy there with a lot of stuff. So I'm thinking we'll just make the drone path as short as possible. Which means coming in here. And we need to jump this whole thing. Make sure we don't cross anything. And luckily these machines aren't going to move anymore, because they're not generating any new resources. So any new resources we make would be back here. So we don't have to worry about blocking anything by doing this. And the one drone should be more than enough. We do need to have logic here, because we definitely want priority for our new setup, even over everything else. Let's see, so we have an input right here. How about if that gets below 40,000, that runs. And then these ones up here are our least desirable ones. We'll make this below 20,000. They run. And then this other method, well, we don't want it to run all the way up, because then there'll be no room in here for any junk resources that might find their way. So how about we just do 80,000? We have our input of coke. We also need to get our input of sodium hydroxide, which I wasn't thinking of. And we need to get the sodium carbonate out. Because we're doing 2 full belts exactly, it means that we need filter inserters here, where this is going to be our carbon. And then we need to figure out how to get these other resources in and out. Well, we could probably just do it on this other side here. And we'll do long-handed. And it looks like it will be fast enough, because we only need 20. So 3 of them at 13 a second will be fine. And then we finally need the output, the sodium carbonate, the whole reason why we're here. And I guess we'll have to make a new belt of it. So 1 belt can come in and 1 belt can come out. And this other one would go somewhere. We'll figure out exactly where in a bit. Well, and we could also potentially save some space by not putting that right there. And instead, moving it out of the way. Like this. Which will give us more space. So we can do the long-handed inserter to get in there. And in fact, we can use this to squish this in tighter. Then we have our output, which is a regular inserter, and it has to be filter. And it won't quite work in that we can do near here. Because it's odd, we'll have to do one more off to the side here, and then go down, which will also be nearsighted. So, are we getting close to being ready here? I think so. Well, it all fits in here without being too crazy. Pretty close to being crazy, but we're not quite there. Okay, well, it'll probably process very quickly when we hook this up. Pretty much. And there's unfortunately not much to see at the moment because this warehouse was so full. I wonder if we can initiate a carbon request to try to test things out. That's 57,000. I don't think it will break the game if we just manually control a train. So let's upgrade this station with our stack inserter so it goes as fast as possible. And they're already set. So this station is serviced by... which train? Oh, I think it's the one that's over here. So, if we just make some manual requests here, please take us to carbon load. And unfortunately, that is set up to not work without the L10 request. Boo. Is there a way to make this happen without just completely breaking it? Oh, kind of. Let's send that thing back to the depot. I think that we can just pick some of the resources out because I believe the train amount needs to be 64,000. And if we can get it to that point, it should be okay. And these are nice and even, so it'd kind of suck to make them uneven. But it'll still work either way, regardless of whether they're even or not. But let's see what we can do with our inventory. We don't need these batteries anymore. We don't need the wood bricks. Or those. Or those. Okay. So if we pull 10 slots here, it just gets put in junk inventory. And 10 there. Same thing. 10 there. 10 there. And now it's at negative 65,000, which means it should make a request for a train. And then it'll eventually just put the resources back into the chest. But the train will end up taking way more resources. So we need to have a buffer chest to hold all of this output. And I'm not sure where, but I guess this is an opening right here, so we'll just connect it. I don't think there's going to be any reason not to have this maxed out. Because it's... well, I guess we don't want it to be maxed out because it does make some extras. But we could also handle that, but some other methods do create it. So we probably don't want it to be at 100%, but we do want it to be high enough to where we don't need to rely on carbon. So how about we get this up to like 80,000? And that'll leave a little bit of space for other stuff if it needs to get in there. And there we go. There goes train. And it's probably going to get loaded very quick compared to what we're used to. With all those fast stack inserters. Oh yeah, look at that. 6,000, 7,000, 8,000. Well, it holds 64,000, so it's still a pretty big train. So we probably want these belts to be upgraded. So it can actually load that train that fast. Oh, come on, really? Fine. And I'm not sure why there's a priority on here. These are all pretty much equal. There we go. Wow, it's almost full already. And it is going to take this level a while to get down, so there's actually room to make stuff. But let's do this for the sodium carbonate. Hopefully no junk guts in here. Nope. And since we can't make buffer versions of this yet, let's just put a buffer chest here, asking for the sodium carbonate, and then it can be injected in if it comes down to that. And a lot of the carbon went into the junk warehouse, so we need to put it back in here, which we can do by asking for the carbon, stack inserter to slam it in there. And wow, that was fast. That's not really working though. Well, I guess it would work if this was not a logistics warehouse, if it was just a regular one. Hey, don't take it, don't take it. Oh, they took it already. Well, give it a second. We need our steel so we can make another one, because it took our entire stack to do that. It ran for a second and then stopped because the water is filled up. Let's see, hydrogen. Is it just not connected? Oh, well, it's because hydrogen normally fills itself up to maximum, which isn't what we'd want to see here. I don't think we have a dump for hydrogen currently. I don't know if I want to dump it. So it tried to get it up to 60. Alright, well, we'll need to burn some of it, and we got rid of the hydrogen burners. So the next best thing is the chlorine setup. I don't know if we necessarily need all three of these, but temporarily speaking, we can just grab the hydrogen out of here, have a pump, and we need the signal, which will probably be easiest if it's grabbed from there. Let's do an arithmetic combinator to pull the unnecessary signals out. So it has all of the inputs. We want just hydrogen. And will it work on a green signal now? Yep. So we'll bring this in, and we'll say if hydrogen is more than, how about like 70,000? So it's pretty close to maximum, but not quite there. Ideally this would be much closer, but I kind of just want to check to see if it works. So that's dumping the hydrogen in there. It's getting burnt. We could potentially upgrade this stuff, but we don't have to worry about it right now. I just see this as a temporary thing, just to make sure that it works, because I want to make sure that it made room, and it did, but it didn't make the level go down so much that it started generating more. And I see that we're gaining oxygen, but it should be burned away before too long here. Feels weird dumping oxygen, but when you have two things as byproducts that you're trying to save, sometimes it comes down to that. So sometimes we'll be dumping oxygen, and sometimes we'll be dumping our nitrogen. You just don't know what the factory's going to be doing at any given time. But now it's working again because these are electrolyzing away. And did we get enough? Yep. To build our warehouse. So we'll just plop that in there. And there we go. Now that'll work. So, are these running at full speed? They don't really seem to be. Not enough nitrogen. Is it just that the amount of nitrogen is too much? No, it's 600. These sides aren't running at all. Oxygen is full. Well, that makes sense. So we probably need to have our own flare stacks here, just in case. And some overflows. Just because the same reason that the oxygen generator for sulfuric acid is so far away that it's going to be hard to dump the nitrogen from all the way up here. We also can't rely on the oxygen vents from the bottom of the base taking care of what's happening up here. So those are running, but speed modules will help. Because down there at the bottom, it's already at 59,000 where that sensor is. So up here, it's just because of sloshing problems that it can't quite empty. Now it has, it's caught up with nitrogen. So these are basically running at full speed. But we don't need all three of them running at full speed. We only need 2.67, but nonetheless, it is kind of annoying that we're not getting our 2 full belts out of this, that we really should be. It might help if one of these was a near, and same here. Yeah, kind of. And let's actually make this one a near too. See if that helps. It's kind of hard to tell. It's mostly good. I think we'll just have to say it's good enough. Well, it's pretty fast. But in the end, it just doesn't generate that much. Only 1/6 of the amount of making carbon actually turns into the carbonate. But we only need 10 per second, so we still may need to generate this in other ways. And actually, when you look at all of the ways, probably with brown algae would be the easiest way. Might be big, but I think that would probably be easiest. Uh-oh. Oh, we've got kind of the same thing going on here. So there we go. That should fix that. We still have like 5,000. So that should be enough for a little while to test. Alright, well we know we have it. So when we're ready with our build, we can get the belt down. So back here to aluminum. Convert these. Convert these. Well, it is significantly different. First, we need a relatively large number of chemical furnaces to combine the coke, the sodium carbonate, and the pellets, which will turn it into sodium aluminate. And then we add the sodium hydroxide and some carbon dioxide, which we are making from the rest of the factory, so we can just kind of dump it in there, and some fuel. And that will turn it back into carbonate, which we can swing it back around. But that will also make alumina, and then that alumina can go into a storage warehouse here, where the priority is given to the alumina that is made from silicon. And then potentially this thing could fill up very high. So we're already sending in the carbon here, but we also need to send in the coke. So it's actually kind of annoying that we need two different fuels, but we could split this belt and put the two different fuels on it. And we could also split the sodium hydroxide belt as well and put sodium carbonate and hydroxide on there. And we probably don't even need to worry about the wood bricks. I guess we could if they're right over here, but since we have these other fuels, we probably can just use those. It looks kind of complicated, but I'm thinking it's easier than it looks. Let's see, that gets sent down because we actually need that alumina for other stuff. So for now, let's just pick up all of these belts. And we'll work our way up there later. We'll save the last step to go up there. Seems like most of our bots are the tier 3 ones now. And if we check down here, that is basically the case, because these robot recaller chests would have any robots in them at all if they were available. So that means that all of our robots have now been converted. Some of them are probably still stuck in chests here, so our number isn't quite right, but we now have 11,000 construction bots, and 1.7k of them are stuck in here. But the moment we make some big logistics requests, they will be pulled out, and then it'll start working. Alright, well, we're probably going to have to start shimmying some of this stuff over based on kind of the width of these buildings, but maybe not. We might be able to save some width by just doing them, instead of side by side, just straight up and down. At least for aluminum, to save space. Although we'll probably need to do it for both of these. So we'll get this figured out here. We basically need to do it twice. So if we need 6.7, let's just do 2 groups of 4 for each input belt. And the sodium carbonate can probably come in from there, although there is some extra space there as well. But the sodium carbonate and the coke could come in on the same belt, and then they would go along belt number 2 right up there, where belt 1 can be the input of the pellets, which just need the 1 inserter. And we'll probably need the purple inserter here to get those other items, because there's 2 different things that'll be grabbing at the same time. Okay, that belt will continue to go on, and then the second pellet belt will come through here. That will come up, and then it will repeat. So if we just make 2 of them, they should fit on top of each other. And we might as well do that now. So if we slam it on here, so fast, we're good. And then we don't need to do that again. That will get all of our inputs, so now we have our outputs, which are the 2 purple belts. How fast is one machine? 18. And technically 1 inserter will do it. Then repeat the same thing again. And this can go out here. So we can just use short inserters again, so we don't have to reconfigure them. We'll have to see how big this is to see if we want to line it up with this or something up here. But actually, it's direct inserted up here, which is kind of annoying. I guess that's what's basically happening here. But we don't really want to direct insert it because there needs to be that warehouse in the middle, although I suppose this could be weird. They can direct insert into the warehouse itself and then go into the blast furnace again. So I think that would actually work. But unfortunately, this is off by 1 square. Of course, we want it to be lined up the best we can. It will be slammed right into it, which sucks, but it's also straight, which doesn't suck. So that goes in there, and then we kind of need to move these belts around. It's going to be a little messy. I think this is our free spot right here, so we'll just take it down. Get our new resource. And we'll have to remember that we'll need it to go inside some kind of storage chest to try to recover it. So it comes around here. And that is kind of annoying because it means it basically can't share the same belt, at least until it gets to that point. So that is kind of annoying. Let's use a long belt that fits. So we'll grab that. It's going to come in eventually. This needs to come in, and I guess it could be anywhere because we've got some space here. And I'm not sure how much of this we're actually going to need to have. Probably not very much. So I'm guessing a buffer chest will probably work fine for this. We want to have, say, 1,000 go in there. And of course, anything that's flying around the factory should also be sent here. So that'll only top it up when it gets low. And because we're putting both of those on the same belt, it does need to be purple. So at least once it gets to this point, the belts can combine. But maybe we should do something like this, where they combine like right here. I guess unhook it so it doesn't go through all the way. And that needs to go in there. And then it's going to be kind of funny. Well, I didn't really combine belts like I said I was going to. I guess it doesn't really matter, because it's not like this was going to move any tighter in here. We might need to move this depending on how big this stuff is, but oh well. Having only one item on a belt does make it a lot easier to move it around. We do have the room for these belts, so it's not too big a deal to do this. And then those are in there, so we might as well line all the belts up. Okay, so it goes through there. And now we need to try to do our weird thing. So we have this being a storage warehouse, but it kind of needs to be a regular one. And that will be the central area. These ones right here can make what we need. And each one of them is going to have to do 60. And it looks like just 2 inserters will get the job done. So in case we want some extra space in here for something, let's just space these out so that space exists. Those would swing in. The carbon dioxide would come in from somewhere, but we would have our belts in here. And done in this way, we would need 3. They would perfectly max it out if we did, which is kind of an issue based on the position of these pipes, but it'll work. So they would swing in like that. The pipes would probably come down through here and hook up somewhere. It does need the sodium hydroxide and the fuel, which I guess would be carbon. And that probably could be done with 1 inserter right on the end here. So let's do an extra long inserter, which would get its stuff from somewhere. And then this has an output of both the sodium carbonate and what we need. And I guess we can just throw it all in here, because then we can use a filter on here to pull the sodium carbonate out, and only that. And actually, it would only really need to be yellow. And then it would go down to where it's needed. And then our input of this would probably come in on the other side. And since this is a repository, we will set this to alumina, asking for all of it. And if we get rid of that, it will eventually dump it where it needs to go. And is this an okay place to put it? Yeah, probably. Although moving it up might make it a little more square. So let's figure out the top element of this. These inserters need to be set so they don't always insert just when this is below a certain point. And how about 1000? So as long as it has more than that, they don't need to go. Now these can run. And they will need that alumina and the fuel. And the inserter requirements are basically the same. I wonder if it would be smoother to have our 3 inserters pulling in on this side instead, so the belt can come up like that, and same on this side, which would make this part in the middle a little less crazy, which means that a lot of this is now simplified. And we do need to get a fuel up there, but it's also kind of right here, so I suppose we don't really need to worry about that. We can just kind of bring it in from over there somewhere, and it won't be much, so just 1 inserter. And then we need our 2 belts of output again. And we probably want to use all of the available slots here, and that's kind of why I wanted to do it like this, just to make sure we get these belts maxed out, because then they can swing wherever they need to go. So we pick it up, and now we need to do our best to line it up down here. I guess it doesn't really matter because the belts are kind of moving around now, so we could potentially kind of try to squeeze it over here to save some space. So how about we line it up with those machines down there and put it right there. We only need to have about 1,000 in there. Well, that can go right there. That one can go there. I guess since the other part was red, will you make this one red as well? That can go in there. And I guess we will block that for a second. We have our alumina input from over here, which should basically go straight in. Although I'm noticing here that the fuel is incorrect. That actually we want the fuel to be on the first set of machines here. But we'll come in there because we need to have the fuel on 1/2, and then the sodium hydroxide will be on the other. Like up in there. And I'm wondering, though, if in attempt to make this take up less space, we should try to squeeze it in like this. And it does just kind of fit. Just so there's more room for nickel if we need it. I feel less bad about squeezing all this together because this is tier 3. So there's no more process improvements from here. The only thing to improve is to make it bigger. And certainly it seems pretty big right now, considering we're going to get 120 a second. And how about we go in here, because then that will allow us to hook this up. I guess we can get it ready to go here. Get rid of some flashing. And I guess there was already some resources in here, so I wasn't expecting that, but it works now. But let's hook this up too, since it's got fuel in there. And then this output, we'll try to squeeze it in, just in case we need this space for something, and it's only 10 per second as an output up here, so we can just go in here And our sodium carbonate got in here, so we've got our 1000. I'm thinking we're pretty good. We're pretty close here. Now we just need the carbon dioxide, which is one more pipe to send in. Is it going to jump across all of these? Wow. It does by one square. The carbon dioxide is right here. And how are we doing on various gases? Seems fine. Looks like nitrogen never quite got maxed out, which is kind of the point. Oxygen we have a little bit of. Hydrogen seems like it's kind of maxed out again. Close. It's at 93%. That isn't 100%. But shouldn't this be burning it? It is. But it's only 90 up here, so yeah, I guess it's working okay. As long as nothing is clogged, we're doing fine. Now carbon dioxide needs to go in, and that pipe fit absolutely perfectly. Okay. I'm getting excited here. This step took a little while to get to, but I think we're pretty good to test this out. Well, that seems like it's not going quite fast enough. There we go. So loaded up. The only thing it's waiting for are the pellets now. And let's unhook these. It's nice having faster belts and inserters and things, so I'm not as concerned about space as I was before, because we can compact things pretty tightly and still get some good performance. But there it goes. And these shouldn't really run because we have plenty of alumina from this other process. So that's simply waiting for the output, and those are already full. So we're pretty good. There's only one last thing we need to put in here, and that's this alumina belt right here, because alumina is used for other processes. So it's yet again one more belt to come through here. I guess we'll just take this one on the side. Kind of surprised how much went in and out here. So we need our output, and this will always go, because when we need this stuff, we need it. So yeah, it definitely didn't leave enough space in here before for some of these setups, but so far it's working out. It's just kind of funny. But really though, when you look at it, there's a ton of space now. So we had to squish this one in, but now working on zinc should have a lot more space. And are we going to need it? Well, we make the pellets, and then we'll need some oxygen gas, which we can generate. Make zinc oxide and sulfur dioxide gas, which is just a general byproduct. Sulfuric acid will go in to make zinc cathodes, and then we make the ingots. So actually this setup really won't require that much, and we already have an oxygen generator around here, so although it's got a couple of steps, it won't really require any special resources. So zinc should be pretty easy to set up, and then hopefully we will have gained ourselves a little bit of space again. But let's hook that up, and it's probably not going to be enough to drain this to really see. But otherwise, not much going on there. It just kind of works. So let's work on zinc now. But that's going to have to wait until the next episode. Thanks for watching, and I will see you later.